Okay, we are live and continue this morning. We have a little time to, we're going to discuss covered bridges. We haven't talked much about that or bridge preservation projects. And we have us with us this morning is J.B. McCarthy. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Oh,
Good
well,
morning.
welcome to our committee and you give us a little overview of what's happening. We lost a bridge here a few weeks ago, didn't we? Up in
Yeah, yes, we did. And I'll have a photo of it here during the presentation. So
whose district was that in? Was that in yours, Russ, or no?
It was, yes, it
Oh,
was.
okay.
Yeah, went across that bridge. I went across that bridge all the time. Yep,
Really?
I
Wow.
did. Yep.
I guess
Okay,
maybe I
all
can
yours. Go ahead.
start my share my screen here.
Go right ahead. Yeah.
Start my PowerPoint.
Got a personal preference for the Browns River covered bridge. I don't know if that's in your slide deck today. But
I don't think that one made it today.
Wow.
Sorry.
That's a big bridge. Wow.
Can you see that? Let me see if I can do the put on video here.
Is that the one that got damaged?
No.
No.
This is,
Okay.
well, welcome. It's nice to have a chance to speak to you about bridge preservation. I'm J.B. McCarthy. I'm the bridge preservation engineer. I work in the structures section. I worked for the agency for 41 years, so mainly all on bridges. So kind of been around the block a few times here. So I'll just kind of go through. I got a bunch of slides here, so I want to make sure I get through them. So I won't say too much on any given slide. If anybody has a question, just go ahead and speak up during the PowerPoint.
Okay, we'll do that. Thank you. Yeah.
Let's see. So here's the location of the covered bridges around the state, and it's pretty scattered. They're pretty much everywhere. They're easy to find. You see,
81 of them? Wow.
yep, there's 81 covered bridges. You can Google them and find them. It'll take you right to most of them if you want to see. People want to see them, and a lot of tourists do that. We break it into two categories. There's true covered bridges and what we call false covered bridges because they have a supplemental force system underneath to carry the heavier loads because it's on that type of road where the town would like to have that capability. These are all owned by the towns. If we don't, the state of Vermont does not own any of these. So the longest covered bridge is the one on the front cover that I showed us in Dummerston. It's 270 feet. The record was the Townsend covered bridge. I'll show you at the end of the PowerPoint. It was 277 feet. It was closed for a while. It's just been rehabbed. I'll show you a picture here at the end. The longest spans are in Rockingham and Cambridge. They're 146 feet, just one span. And the shortest span is a 32-footer up in West Windsor. It pretty much runs the gamut. So these things were built, started building these covered bridges and timber bridges in the 1700s, 1800s. There was a lot of good old growth in Vermont. Good tight grain, good timber, mainly spruce and white pine. A lot of these bridges still have some of these original members in them. The members were connected with dowels. They called them tree nails, mainly made of oak. And a lot of variety of people that built these, a lot of timber designers and people that built barns and houses and framers and that type of thing. The railroad, of course, had a lot of timber bridges. I just want to touch on the roof, how significant the roof and important the roof is on these things. It's the main reason these things have lasted. They're protected from the elements. And it just makes a big difference on their longevity. And most of the bridges now we've been able to get the standing seam metal roof on the bridges. The snow slides off, get the snow loads off of there. And it's rather light compared to shingles or even a few bridges left with slate roofs. Snow slides off the slate, but the slate's pretty heavy. So the dead load of covered bridges is significant. They're pretty heavy compared to what they can carry, but just kind of characteristic of them. Of course, we lost a lot of bridges. There were a lot of timber bridges in Vermont, mainly all of them. Prior to the 27 flood, lost 1,200 bridges, lost some covered bridges, had another storm in the 36 and 38 time frame. So we lost about 300 timber bridges between those two storms. And so starting in the mid 1930s or so, we had a lot of new bridges. A lot of bridges that you see come through the regular program on state highways were built then. And a lot of covered bridges were put back. We didn't start doing rehabilitations on covered bridges probably till the 70s or so, when there became more of an interest in preserving them. So here's just a chart shows when most of them were built, starting in 1820s through the 1800s, and then a sprinkling of new ones throughout the 60s, 70s, and the last few years. These are the number of bridges that we've have rehabilitated, have had projects on since the 60s, and quite a few in the 2000s. There was some additional funding that came through from Federal Highway, which really helped in doing this work. This kind of interesting slide shows how much can these bridges carry. And they go, we try to get them up to at least 3 tons, which is, cars, very light trucks, and up to some of them are up to 24,000 pounds, which is usually the legal load limit on these town highways. But the majority of them are 5 to 6 to 8 tons. These ones at the end that are not posted, those are the bridges that have steel beams or something underneath because the town desired the standard loading that these roads could take. So, and there's not a lot of traffic on most of these bridges. Another reason they've lasted so long, besides the roofs, there's about an average of 500 vehicles a day of where these bridges are located. These bridges compete with every other bridge, interstate bridge, state bridges, and other town highway bridges for funding. They don't have their own separate funding source, which, something we always try to talk about. Maybe we can get a separate line item for these things. But we've done well over the last 20 years, and a lot of them are in pretty good shape. We did have some specific money in the 2000s, and we did, when we placed 15 roofs. Didn't do much else besides get a new roof on it, which was a big help. We have a committee that was set up because of the T21 federal authorization bill. So we have a committee that reviews all projects that come through, and it's made up of our designers, our project managers, the town officials, because they own the bridge, historic preservation officer, and people from the there's a Vermont Covered Bridge Society that's pretty active. They have probably the best record of the covered bridges that are out there and what's going on with them. So they get involved. So we meet early on, and the project engineer and designer tells us what's going to happen, and we all agree. We don't vote on things. It's not that hard and fast, but we have some lively discussions, and we come to a consensus. And I chair that committee. So we have a list of treatments that we do on these covered bridges. It was part of the covered bridge plan, trying to retain all the existing character of the bridge. And so we go from retaining the existing members all the way to putting something supplemental capacity underneath. And one of the concepts that's key here is anything we do, we'd like to have it be reversible. So if we add something that really reinforces the bridge, if someday down the road the bridge doesn't need that kind of capacity, that system can be taken out and the bridge can be as it was originally, preserve the historic integrity. So here's a bridge. This is Checker House Bridge, the truss in the background. This is in Richmond, and this was Route 2 on this covered bridge until that Checker House Bridge was built. And in between these bridges today, we have 2 barrels of I-89. So kind of shows how far we've come based on our needs. This is the Heidelberg, the original Heidelberg Bridge between Burlington and Colchester across the Winooski River.
Look at that.
Built in 1860.
Wow.
2 spans. I'm sure it was very popular way to get north out of Burlington.
Wow.
They built it in 1860 for $5,900. So a little bit different today. It was closed in 1935. That's probably, I think, when they built the first major vehicular Heidelberg Bridge. And then this is what's out there today at the Heidelberg location. So quite the difference. So we're going to talk about the locations where things didn't have to change because of the demand for traffic and that type of thing. This is up in Cambridge, Vermont. I kind of really like this picture. This is looking, Cambridge Village is at the top of the screen. So this is looking back toward the west. This is the Lamoille River flowing to the top of the screen. This is the original old Vermont Route 15. And this bridge in the circle is the Gates Farm covered bridge. And the state's in the process of building the new bridge over the Lamoille River, infamously known as the Wrong Way Bridge, if you've been up that way. There's a whole nother story to that, but this main covered bridge over the Lamoille River is a 2-barrel covered bridge, and you can see this bridge today. It's the one at the Shelburne Museum. If you go down there, was moved down there. So this bridge is Gates Farm covered bridge. This is the Lamoille River. There's another stream that comes out of the off of Mount Mansfield here, the state park, state forest, the Seymour River, and it used to meander around through here, and that's why the Gates Farm covered bridge was located here. When they built the new highway bridge, they relocated the stream, something we don't do anymore, and they landlocked this field out here for this farmer. So at the time in 1950, the state moved this covered bridge over to the second location, where it exists today, and developed an agreement with him that the state would own and maintain the bridge to provide access to the field that we cut off because we relocated the stream. And there it is today, out on the field. In 1995, we did a project to totally reconstruct the covered bridge. We pulled it out in the field here, rebuilt it, put it back. But one thing we didn't do at the time, and because it wasn't needed, was take a look at the foundation. And all they did was they put 2 concrete caps on timber piles, which is how the Vermont 15 bridge was built, on timber piles, and put it in place. But this stream has eroded away and exposed these piles. And this is what's left of one of the timber piles. And you can see up in the concrete above where that was the diameter of it originally. So we have a project right now. We're going to go in and stabilize this bridge and try to figure out what to do. It's not in the best place for a covered bridge. We'll go back here, because the flooding at this site is really controlled by the Lamoille River, and pretty much in the springtime, water gets up over this bridge about 4 feet. So we'll see what we can do here and try to maintain it. But this bridge is on the National Register of Historic Places, and people come and visit it, and the farmer's fine with it. And there's been weddings on the bridge and all sorts of things. So I'm just going to skip through real quick, not to get too technical, but different types of trusses that we have out there for our covered bridges. These slides all show the number of bridges we have on this type and the span range that it's applicable to. This is for the shorter spans, it's little king post truss. Then we go to a queen post, adds another vertical, a little longer spans. And then you go to multiple king posts, get up to almost 100 feet. And I guess maybe they were having trouble with these and wanted to go longer. So a fellow down in Massachusetts named Theodore Burr put an arch, tied it into that truss, and it's called a Burr arch. And we have a few of those around on the state. There's one unique bridge up in Irisburg, 85-foot span. It's a Paddleford truss. Doesn't get a lot of traffic. It's in very good condition. Town takes good care of it. But by and far, the most popular one you'll see out here around Vermont is the lattice truss. And a fellow by the name of Ithiel Town from Connecticut got a patent on that in 1820. So we have about 35 of those. So almost half of the covered bridges out there are of this type. So here's the West Dummerston Bridge that was on the title sheet, built in 1872, did a major rehabilitation in 1998. The contractor that we selected, it was his first job with the agency, and he had done a lot of work with churches and barns and other timber things, but he hadn't done a covered bridge, and we were a little bit nervous about having him start on this type of bridge, but he did a tremendous job. This bridge gets a lot of traffic because it comes to kind of a shortcut. If you're coming down 89, you'll get off at, or 91, you get off in Putney, and go up over the hill, come across this bridge to get on Vermont 30 if you're headed north. Saves going down into Brattleboro. So gets a lot of traffic. It's a 1-lane bridge. Something that doesn't get a lot of attention with these covered bridges is the foundations. And then most of them are all laid up stone. And when we did this bridge, we did some repointing and some work on these things. But these guys did a tremendous job when they built these. We put some stone fill around this corner to protect the flow when it gets up the higher levels there. But these things are really, most of them are really well built, and they really held up over time. This is the Cambridge Junction covered bridge. It's at the end of a bridge, the bike trail, part of the Lamoille Valley bike trail that goes from Morrisville to Jeffersonville. This bridge, at one point, this bridge was closed, and we went out there to do a project in the early 2000s. We ran a string from one end to the other, and we measured a 17-inch sag in this bridge. It really needed a lot of work, but we got it back in shape. It's open to cars again today. But this pretty much is 146 feet. And this is pretty much reaches the maximum span for this type of covered bridge.
Are all covered bridges, well, there it is. Most of them are one lane traffic?
Yep, most of all are about 12, 15 feet wide, 1 lane.
Okay.
Gets a little cozy with pedestrians going through there, but this is down in Middlebury. This is, I think this is the only other one other than the bridge that was in Cambridge. It's now at the Shelburne Museum. It's a double barrel covered bridge.
Okay.
We did a big rehab project on this in 2012. It's built in 1853. So it's got lights in here at night. Go through, it's very nice. We built I got a photo. Here's inside, a lot of framework. This is what I was talking about, the dead weight of these things. They're pretty heavy. That's why they can't carry a whole lot of weight for vehicles, because the dead weight eats up a lot of the available capacity. So, but all that bracing is needed to keep things plumb and true and that type of thing. And this time we added a sidewalk on the outside when we did this project, because there's no room and it's not safe to walk through either of the barrels. This is probably one of my favorite covered bridges in Vermont. This is the Tassville covered bridge on Route 4, about halfway between Coeachee and Woodstock. And this bridge also had a big project in 2013. In 2011, when Irene hit, this thing was really tested. The rains were heavy down that part of the state, and the water came up, and just after that went through, we had to brace it up and stabilize it, and then the project came through. We got a new roof, did a lot of work on some interior members. It's really unique. The 2-span bridge, it's a combination of a truss and its arches. And this is what's kind of historic, and it's nice about these arches come in at different angles, something you've never designed today if you were sitting down starting to design something, but that's what they did. These spans are a little bit, they're not equal spans, they're different spans, but this pier, this stone pier, is held up for a long time. We brought in a grouting consultant out of New York City. They do a lot of work down there. The buildings down there that have stone facades on them are coming loose over time. And this guy was tremendous knowledge on grout. We wanted to get the right grout. We pumped it down in between these stones to stabilize everything and tie it all together. So it's in pretty good shape now. It gets quite a bit of traffic. Here's the inside of it. This is our arches original, and it's the rods that go down and hold up the floor system. It's I think it's my favorite bridge. This is probably number 2. This is the Green Banks Hollow Bridge in Danville, on the road between Danville and.
You know that one, Jane?
Yeah, Green Banks Hollow, right off to the right, by the sign that says 11 feet 6 inches. This is on Joe's Brook. My brother-in-law lives within sight of this bridge.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a beautiful little enclave, and it used to be a woolen mill owned by Green Banks. And so it's now kind of a really historic, it's a picnic area. It's a lovely little enclave.
Yeah.
But it's off the beaten path, I can tell you.
Yes.
Yeah, it isn't there just below that too, Jane, something to do with the Willow Mill, some old stonework and all of
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh,
yeah.
uh-huh. And there's a historic sign, historic site. And so it's a lovely little area, but yes, there's some remaining of stonework from the mills.
It's kind of unique because it's open versus the other covered bridges that have siding. Town keeps it painted, which is a good idea, but it looks very nice. Here's a picture on the inside.
There must be a lot of damage to these bridges by trucks being too high or too wide or too heavy, or because I bet the height must mess up a lot of folks.
They get hit every year, and even
yeah.
now, more often now, as people, these truckers use their Google Maps
Yeah,
to
yeah.
get around, and it doesn't tell them there's a covered bridge on the road. They try to go through, and they break a lot of the cross beams.
Right, I bet they do, yeah.
I gotta mention this. This bridge is not, most of it's in New Hampshire. It's over the Connecticut River, but it's the Windsor Corners Bridge. Longest wooden covered bridge in the United States. Built in 1866. We did a big job with New Hampshire in 1989, $4.5 million or so, and had a lot of meetings on what to do and all sorts of things. This is a 2-lane covered bridge. This is almost 20 feet wide, so this is a little bit different. So it's a real piece of art. It's really something. If you haven't been there, everybody needs to go down and walk across this bridge.
Is that what it looks like today?
That's today. Yep. Yep. So this is a few slides, and then these bridges have been around a long time, but what are the things that threaten them? This is in Waitsfield. This is Waitsfield Village, and the Mad River that comes up when we get a lot of rain pretty quickly. Carries trees come down, hit the bridges, and you mentioned Senator mentioned overloads, vehicle impact damage. So ice comes up. They situated these things back in the day just high enough. It's pretty amazing to stay above the ice, but now they get hit more and more. Leaking roofs were a big problem for a long time, but I think we've got a lot of good roofs on these things now to protect them. Powder post beetles are a big deal. Inspectors find that damage all the time, and when we do our projects, we put insecticide and we put fire retardant on the main carrying members. Let's see if I can run this. This is everybody's probably seen this. This is the Bartonville's covered bridge that we lost in Irene, which was pretty sad to see. This bridge went down in about 3 seconds here.
Wow.
It's just sad to see something like that get destroyed. But the town built it back. They got some money and some grants, I guess. And the fellow that designed this was a guy by the name of Phil Pierce. He's the person we hired to do a study of all our covered bridges back in the 1990s. Did a tremendous job. Pretty much a replica of what was there. It's nice when these bridges have the window openings in them. It adds light to the inside. Otherwise, they get pretty dark even during a sunny day, and it's hard to see if pedestrians are inside and that type of thing. You can see it's starting to weather here. It'll all be silver here in a couple of years. But they're brand new abutments. This thing should be there hopefully through the next Irene we have. And this, I just wanted to point out the big difference today when you design something today. Notice the bracing, a lot of bracing in the top part of the roof here for the top cord, which they didn't have in a lot of the other covered bridges. A lot of them ended up sagging or swaying or that type of thing. And that bracing is really important to provide the stability for these. So here's an example of what the powder post beetles do. They eat the covered bridge members out from the inside out. This came out of the Townsend Scott Bridge. I'll show a picture of that in a minute. And inspectors really can't see too much of this sometimes because another member comes in here. This is like a lightning bolt joint, what it's called. And so you don't see it until you take it apart. Then you see all the damage from the interior. And of course, had some fires here. This is the Salisbury Cornwall Bridge, which had a fire in 2016. I'm not sure if they ever determined what actually caused this fire to start in the middle of the day like this, but the whole thing was lost. And we put a temporary bridge in for the town. This job is now a project with the agency, and it's being scoped, and I hope they decide they want a covered bridge back. Here's the North Troy Bridge that we lost this winter. The snowmobiles took a break on it. Something happened to one of them, and it burned, and they couldn't stop it. Couldn't get the snowmobile off, and unfortunately, this bridge was just rehabilitated in 2007, so it was in pretty good shape. And hopefully, I know there's things going on to get some funding from whatever sources to reconstruct. I think they want a covered bridge back, but we haven't heard for sure.
Senator Ingalls going to write a check for it, put his name on it.
Yeah, well, I do have one bridge in Irisburg that's got our last name on it, so I can't have all the bridges with my name on them.
Okay. We have a couple of railroad covered bridges. This is the one down in Shoreham. No rail line there anymore, obviously, and but it's there. It's got a path on it. Built in 1897 by the Rutland Railroad. The Howe Truss, a little bit different, 109 feet. The last railroad went through there in 1951. There's the inside. That's like that. They got a walkway all built and everything. And this is not supposed to be not a Lamoille Valley Rail project, but it's open for people to see it. This is on the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail. This is the Wolcott covered bridge, Fisher covered bridge. It's called. It's just off Vermont 15. You can see it from the main road. So there's projects going on right now. You probably saw a request for funding come through to fix up the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail and open it up to snowmobiles and bike path use and that type of thing. And we've been having some meetings on this covered bridge. That's historic. It's owned by the Division for Historic Preservation, but we have an agreement with them to maintain it. Hasn't needed much work to maintain. In the late 1960s, the bridge wasn't in very good shape. Trains were still using it, and the railroads went in and put in. You can see some cribbing underneath there. There's some timber piles they put in, and they put in 4 steel girders to carry the trains, and left the bridge there. And those girders, that floor system is still in place, and that's what we're going to use. We're going to put a new floor in there for the bike path. But these bridges are quite just hard to imagine locomotives going over timber bridges like this, but they held up very well. And the last trains went on this line in 1973 when the railroad decided this was not a profitable way to move goods, I guess. This is the one I mentioned, the Scott covered bridge down in Townsend. This bridge was closed for a long time to any kind of traffic because it was such in poor condition. And we finally got a grant. We spent $2 million on this bridge, and it's open now to pedestrians only. And it was the longest covered bridge in the state at 200, and still it is now at 277 feet. In 1981, we went in and put this pier in the river to hold this up. Otherwise, I don't think this bridge would be here anymore. And the major project to rehab it was done in 2016. And there it is today. Funny little story. When they had a grand opening here, they had a band and a whole bunch of people on this bridge. And I think Kristen Higgins from our structures office went down for that opening. And people are dancing and jumping up and down on the bridge. And she got a little concerned, so we came back and we had we had a consultant do this design. We had him do an analysis to how many people should be on this bridge, jumping up and down and dancing and this type of thing. And he only came up with about 60 people. Well, I think there was a lot more than that there that day, but that type of loading is, can get into a cyclical and a rhythm. A lot of people have seen the Tacoma Narrows Bridge video from a long time ago, back in the 30s, where the wind got to swaying the bridge and it just finally exploded. So we wanted to try to avoid that here. So we gave them a letter stating what we recommend, that they keep the load limit off for people on the bridge. This photo was from the Vermont Covered Bridge Society. They have if you want a good reference, you can go to their website. So Google Vermont Covered Bridge Society. They have a lot of very good references, and they have the fellow who's the vice president I can't think of his name right now. He wrote a book on covered bridges, which is very good. So I'd recommend that if you want to find out more. And this is the North Troy Covered Bridge before the fire, and very unique. It had these stabilizing braces that someone put in at some point. But this was just after we did the rehab in 2007. Brand new roof, new members, and new paint and everything. So we hope they want to put this back so that people can enjoy this in the future. So that's all I had. If anybody has any questions.
Any questions or comments? I'm glad we had this overview. I didn't realize we had that many. Wow. We probably have more than most states.
Well, that's a good question. We're number 4.
Number
believe it or
4.
not.
Okay.
Pennsylvania has 250 or so.
Wow.
Ohio has close to 200, and Indiana is right up there. Ohio had a program. They were building a new one every year at one point. I'm not sure if they're still doing that.
You said early on the towns maintain these. How do we get involved? Or
They're all owned by the towns. They're on town highways. Most of them on class 3 town highways, dirt roads. Their job is to maintain them, and we they qualify for funding through federal funds.
okay.
So they come to us for a project, just like if this was a concrete slab bridge or whatever, they qualify for that. So
Okay. Yeah.
we had a program. A lot of towns when we offer a project like this, we offer what we call the preservation easement.
Yeah.
Which lowers the town share, and all future projects are on us. So
Okay.
but they have to do certain maintenance. It's not for free. We give them a list of things that they should do to these things to keep them in shape. So they do last. And if they do that, and we inspect them every 2 years, of course. So we have a record, and then their future costs are zero. So it's a good program. It's a good way to make sure that these things be around for a long time. So.
Okay. Well, that's very interesting. So, yeah, those are nice Vermont scenes right there. Now, the one that just burnt down, are they in the process of getting money to build it, or are they waiting, or?
That's what I understand. I understand they had some insurance on it.
Yep.
And
Oh, they did.
I'm not sure what
Yeah.
other avenues they're looking at, but I don't think it's officially come in through. Into our program
That's a
yet.
short bridge anyway, right? So that's.
Yes, it's not very long. Yeah.
I know the favor of everybody is to rebuild it, and you are correct. They'd had some insurance on the bridge, so hopefully it'll be built back. It's used a lot. It is a short route to save you some time. It's used a lot.
Well, thank you, Mr. McCarthy. I appreciate the overview this morning. It was very.
You're welcome.
And
We appreciate your support that you
well,
guys.
thank you. This
give
is,
us.
it really is a lot about Vermont right there. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you. And
you.
we're on the floor in just a short time, committee. And so with that, we're going to sign off, and we'll see you all at 11 o'clock, unless there's any other questions. Yes.
Nope.
Senator Chittenden. Thank you.
I was just saying goodbye.